This is how I saved $115,000 in 1 year, with receipts. Hey beautiful people, it's Courtney. You heard that right, but to be specific, I saved $115,322 in 1 year. I'm gonna be showing you guys statements, how I got there, and steps you can take to do this yourself. Don't forget to smash the like button if you wanna save that amount too, and let me know down below in the comments what is your savings goal of the year. Let's talk about the receipts first and get that out of the way. So I believe in 100% full transparency. I love seeing numbers, and I'm sure you guys do too. So what I thought was the best way to actually measure this was to go into my savings account statement and actually pull out my savings and deposits for every single month of the year. And I'm gonna throw all 12 months up on the screen here, so feel free to pause it if you wanna add this up yourself if you don't trust my opinion. Maybe you just don't trust my math skills, and that's quite okay too. But I thought this would be the best way to actually see how much I saved in 1 year, although it might not be 100% accurate. A thing I didn't take into account was actually retirement savings. So I did not pull together all the statements for that. So of course we still saved for our retirement throughout this year as well. But this is how we saved up this much money, and it was specifically for our house. Because normally I would not leave this amount of money in my savings account. I would choose to invest most of it. What I personally choose to do is leave about 6 months worth of an emergency fund in my savings, and absolutely everything else goes into a retirement or an investment account. Now, even still, you'll notice 1 month I had a deposit for $25,000. Now, I did not include that amount in this total, and that's because that $25,000 actually came from an investment account, and I stuck it in there with the purpose of growing a couple thousand over the course of about a year. And then that way, if I was able to pull it out and I had made money on it, I would to pay for the house. And if not, I would leave it in there just to keep growing. So that was a little more discretionary, but I did not count that towards the total since I probably saved that amount the year prior and was just pulling it out. So want to clear that up as well. Now that we got the proof out of the way, let's dive into how I actually did this. Now, it goes without saying, common sense, you have to make more than $115,000 if you want to save $115,000 in a year. So keep that in mind no matter what your savings goal is. Obviously, your goal is to probably make twice as much as that. Let's talk about income, because I know most people work a typical 9 to 5 where you have a set income and maybe only a small percentage of raise every 6 months to a year. Now, there's only so much growth that you can make in those positions. So unless you're already making $200,000 a year where you could save $100,000, you have to find a way to increase your income outside of your standard job while also working at your standard job. So it's not going to be easy. You might be working 60 to 80 hours a week to get your income to where you need it to be able to save as much as you want to save. And that's what this channel is for. I want to provide you guys with so many different ideas of ways to make money, whether it's a side hustle or a full-on business you want to start to really grow your income. So here's some extra things we did and took on to save this much money, and hopefully you could get some tips or ideas of things you could do yourself. Another thing that I want to point out is 2 incomes are better than 1. So what I mean by this is it's not just me saving this money, it's also my husband and things he does. So it's a kind of a combined effort, and it definitely wouldn't be as high if it was just me living on my own by myself. Now, a few videos back, I did a video on 10 things I stopped buying to be more minimalist and to also save money. So I am not going to repeat any of those 10 things here, but it equated to about an $800 a month savings, a little bit more actually. So if you want to check that video out, I will link it down below, or you could click the little I up here, because although saving $800 a month is great, it's not going to get you to $100,000 in a year. Let's talk about my husband first so we could go ahead and get his stuff out of the way. But in 1 year, he was able to actually more than double his income, and I thought I would share a few of those tips with you. This was a little bit of an unusual circumstance, but the option is out there for most people to take advantage of this. So I think it's 100% something worth sharing. Now, if you didn't know, my husband was in the military for 5 years. When he got out, we moved here and he got a full-time job. During this year where we were able to save a lot lot of money. He had a full-time job and he went back to school. Now, normally you might be thinking that going back to school is actually going to cost you more money. And what I think is one of the best benefits of being in the military is their GI Bill. And now I'm no expert, but if you aren't familiar with it, they basically pay you to go back to school, paying for all your classes and books, but they also give you a BAH, which is a housing allowance. Now, this depends on if you're full-time or not. Anything over 50% full-time, you get like a percentage of it. And then if you're 100% a full-time student, you get 100% BAH. And for us, it depends on your area. But for us, this equated to over $1,600 a month. So that's almost $20,000 that we could save right there just from the housing allowance, which I think is absolutely amazing. On top of those two things, he also worked a lot of side jobs. Now, if you're wondering how to get more side jobs, we could do an entire video on that. Andy is honestly such a good worker, and once he found one job, it would lead to another job, either with that same person or someone they knew. Referrals grow like crazy, but a great place to start where he found a lot of these jobs outside of people he just knew was actually on Craigslist. So we could do a whole video about that in the future because it's a great way to make some side money. So that's what Andy did. Let's talk about what I did to help contribute to that savings. So number one, this was probably one of my best years on YouTube, and it helped me save a lot of money. And when we're talking about percentages, I tried to save about 60 to 75% of my income every single month from YouTube. That pretty much just went straight in the bank, and that's something I swear by. As soon as you get paid, just put it away and do not think about it. So even though our money is combined, we pretty much used Andy's full-time job income to pay our bills and rent and things like that. And then my income was mostly savings, retirement, and then some spending money as well. So YouTube did really well for me this year, and that made up a bulk of my income. However, I also started my business the year prior to this. And what I did this year was just continue to grow it. And when I actually went in and looked on my analytics just from my online website, I also sell on Etsy as well, but I was just looking at my online website and my sales actually grew by 60%. This is actually what my slime business looked like when I first started. It was just in a small corner in my room, and then within a year I moved it into my garage, and then it just kind of got bigger and bigger where I needed more shelving, more supplies. So it really grew a lot and has come a really long way. Now, this was right before the pandemic, so I was still traveling for work conventions and selling slime at different slime conventions, as well as still selling a lot online. It was also the height of slime, so my business was able to do really well through different email marketing and just social media in general. So business was doing really well. I was able to save a lot of money, but beyond that, there was another big input that really helped us, and that was that we had completely paid off both of our vehicles, and we still have those vehicles to this day. So both of our vehicles are a 2014, but they're still running great, still doing good. In the year or two leading up to us thinking about saving for a house and building a house and all of that, we really decided to just pay down payments on our car and just get them completely saved off. Now, my car was around $300 per month. Andy's truck was about $400 a month. So that was over a $700 a month savings, which is over $9,000 in 1 year. And my last tip was to actually invest. Now, I'm a little bit of a gambler, so you may or may not want to take my advice. However, I love investing. I love investing in index funds, but I also love playing around with stocks. Now, I don't play around with money that I'm not willing to lose, nor will I put in money that I'm going to need immediately and I'm not willing to hold until I get some gain on it. So keep that in mind. If you need the money in 1 year, you may make 12 to 20%, or you might lose 12 to 20%. Depending on the year. Now, if you have some extra money you want to see if you can make some money on, I think your best bet is honestly just an index fund like a Vanguard S&P 500 fund. And also right now, if you're a new customer on Wohl, which is a brokerage account, I will leave my link down below. You could get 2 free shares when you deposit $100 into your account. And if you want to, you could always just take those shares and withdraw. I love Wohl because they have $0 trade fees. And after everything Robinhood pulled this past week, I will be moving all my funds over there as well. And if you don't want to do that, I would recommend like a really high interest savings account. There are some out there now, but just sticking it in your bank, it's literally gaining like pennies, which is just completely worthless to me. So if you're 2 to 3 years out of a big savings goal you're going for, I would highly recommend investing some of that money and doing your own research and not just taking my advice, but that is what I would do, and that is what I do with my own money. And those are the steps we took to be able to save over $100,000 in 1 year. My biggest tip overall is to find a way to increase your income. And of course, to really cut down on spending. So I hope you guys found today's video helpful. Let me know what your savings goal is for this year in the comments down below, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.